What's going on? It's your boy Lamar, and this is the first episode of my Patreon podcast. Today's topic is going to be how I find deals, how I fund the deals, and how I flip the properties. And so I've been doing this for a total of 8 years now. I've pretty much seen all varieties of real estate, from the retail side to the wholesale side to the institutional side to the fix and flip side. Not really into the rental space, but I do understand that market. I understand what, most investors and most institutions are looking for when they run their numbers. But that's really not my forte yet. And the reason that's not my forte yet, and it's so crazy how stuff kind of work in opposite of what you think you're trying to do. When I got in this business, obviously that's the ultimate goal. But what happened was I thought I needed to be at a certain amount of capital to start doing that. So I started doing fix and flips, and I've reached that capital goal quite a few times. But the problem is I kept reinvesting into the fix and flip business and started losing money. So I think that kind of messes with your residual income at the end of the day. So instead of building that passive income, I'm still in the active side of things, which is the fix and flip business. And that is a great business to be in. But at the same time, the goal is to have residual income. But in the meantime, while I'm still working in that part of that space, I want to help people understand how to find, how to fund, and how to flip these properties. And I think the most important thing is understanding that the MLS is not the only answer. Wholesalers are not the only answer. There's deeper ways to find deals, and going direct to seller is not just the answer. There's multiple ways to find these properties. I also will be creating a better structure. I will have different tiers and, all that good stuff, and PDF files and just some tricks to the trade that I'll be rolling out as well. So I guess if I'm going to start this off, I think for me, a great way to find properties for me has been through relationships with other agents. That's been a very, very profitable way for me to find properties, and it removes a lot of fluff. And when I say it removes a lot of fluff is because most of the time when you work with agents and you have relationships with agents, they've already vetted this so-called seller. And when I say vetted, I mean they've already filtered out all the bad information when it comes to understanding where the seller needs to be on price, when it comes to making sure there's no probate issues, no title issues. All these things are very important. I find that agents have already filtered out all that bad information. And so for me, having those relationships has been key to my business over the last 5 years. I have agents bringing me, I would say at least on a yearly, no, let's break that down on a monthly basis. I would say I have at least 5 to 10 deals brought to me a month. And I would say at least two of those deals make sense. And I might get it done. I might not. We might just not meet at the price, but it's not about working a deal. It's not about working every deal, but it's just making sure that you have a constant pipeline. And through the course of my 8 years, I've been able to build a constant pipeline through relationships. And the key for me, and everybody won't have this key that I had, the key for me in building those relationships were through wholesaling. And so I work with an investment company that we wholesale properties. And so when we wholesale these properties, we sold them to, different investors, different institutions. But with me being a licensed agent, I was the face of this pipeline. I was the face of everything. And basically what we did was we took those deals and we sold them to wholesalers. We sold them to, not wholesalers. We sold them to, investors. We sold them to institutions. But a key component to that was while we were doing that, I was building these relationships with agents, and they were thinking that we were operating with cash. And that's a really big thing in this business, is that everybody thinks that everybody's using cash. And I'm here to tell you, nobody uses cash. Absolutely nobody uses cash. The only people that use cash are the rookies, the people who don't know what they're doing. And I won't say rookies and people who don't know what they're doing, but people who are not leveraging, the people who are not building portfolios. Because you got to think about it. If you buy one property and it's $165,000, you know, you're out $165,000. So a lot of these properties are bought through, you know, private money funding. But agents, you know, that's just the way it is. Agents, when they see your proof of funds, they think that they think this proof of funds is legit, and, you know, it's cash. And a lot of times, you know, these properties are being bought by private money and banks and, you know, things of that nature. So that has always been my number one source for me. And the MLS and the agents work simultaneously, because, you know, you do find deals on the MLS. But when I say the relationships from the agents is more important, that's like the MLS is like what sparks the relationship. That's like your first deal. But once you get that first deal done, or if you constantly stay in contact with that agent, that's going to be the source of building your business. And, you know, making sure you might want to take somebody out to eat. You might want to, you know, give them a gift card, things of that nature. Making agents feel important, to me, has been very big for me in finding deals. And being honest with you, funding the deal is not hard as you think. Flipping the deal is not as hard as you think. The hardest part of real estate is finding the deal. So building those relationships was very, very important in starting this whole process. So, and of course, wholesalers. But see, here's the thing about wholesalers. Here's the thing about wholesalers. And I had a client of mine who kind of ran into, think maybe like a week ago. Wholesalers are bullshitters. And you might have one wholesaler who's, out of every 20 wholesalers, one of them might be legit. One of them might have the property. One of them, they might they might be direct to seller. But a lot of them daisy chain. A lot of them haven't fixed the title issues, don't know it's title issues. A lot of them don't have it at the price that they say they have. Marketing somebody else's stuff. So those are some of the red flags you run into with dealing with wholesalers. Now, you have legit wholesalers out there, and I was one of those legit wholesalers. I worked with a company that was legit. But at the same time, you know, in being a part of that realm, I was able to spot out all the bad wholesalers, all the red flags and things of that nature. So although it's a good business to be in, at the same time, it's very stressful in understanding that business. And another thing too, another red flag about dealing with wholesalers and getting your properties from wholesalers, a lot of them have this mentality of charging $10,000 in earnings money. $10,000. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. It's like, you know, and let's just be honest, they still getting deals done. There's people out here who are paying $10,000. But why would you want to put down $10,000 in earnest money to buy a property? Why? You know, like you don't know what could happen in 2 days, 3 days. Now, if you're liquid like that, and if it's a great deal, it makes sense. But I find it a lot of times, you know, these properties that they have, they haven't ran numbers right. They don't have it at the price that they're telling you. They have multiple people bidding on these properties. They're doing highest and best. It's just a circus. It's like, for me, if I'm putting a offering on a property, I'm not going to put down $10,000. I'm going to put down 1%, because that's how the retail world works. It's 1%. So a lot of times I only put down 1%, and it's take it or leave it. My reputation precedes me. So I know that I can get this deal done, but I'm not going to let you stress me out by having $10,000 on the line. That's not going to happen. But for a lot of people, that does happen. But those deals are not for me. Paying $10,000, 0 days due diligence, that's not for me. Seeing a property one time, that's not for me. But you have people who do it, and more power to them. Some people have they're liquid to do that, and then you have some people who just want to get in the game. Now, I was that person who just wanted to get in the game, but I'm not that person no more, and I think that's a very desperate mindset. And you don't want to do that, especially with dealing with wholesalers, because their time is of the essence. So, that's just some red flags that I've noticed with dealing with wholesalers. Now, I will say too, a couple other ways that I've been able to find properties outside of relationships, outside of MLS, and outside of wholesaling, I would say has been direct to seller. Direct to seller is, that's basically how the majority of wholesalers get their deals. They're direct to seller. But for me, direct to seller tax liens, that's never been like it's a volume game. It is a volume game. That's what I'm going to say. Direct to seller is a volume game. You gotta make 1,000 calls, and you gotta wait for that one call. So for me, that just hasn't been as profitable. And when you're one person, when you're one entity, you can't really do direct to seller. That's more for somebody who has a VA system. They have a call center, and they're able to just to pump out 20, 30,000 calls a day, and you get you one good lead. And that one good lead can turn into something great. But for me, that hasn't been my philosophy. And then, so the next thing I would like to talk about is funding the deal, funding the deal. I think that's a thing that I think people believe that that's really hard, funding the deal. And it is really hard. But I think the part that people don't understand is that you can get inside some of these deals with no money down. All you have to do is joint venture with somebody. And I had a partner, our very first deal, we joint ventured with a guy who had the experience. He brought the experience, and we brought the property. We didn't even have to bring the money. Because of his experience, we were able to have 0% down, and we guaranteed him a 25% cut of the profits. And so that's one way of, getting inside of the deal. We had a hard money lender, and we used his experience, and we brought the property, and we gave him 25%. I think we gave him $5,000 up front, and we gave him 25% on the back end. Now, was that the greatest deal? Not really. But like I said earlier, when you're just trying to get in the game, you kind of just got to do what you got to do. And that was able to help us get in the game, able to help us get some experience. So that's one way, is joint venturing with somebody. Another way, obviously, is hard money. Using a hard money loan by yourself, private money. And private money is a little bit different than hard money. Just from my POV, it's a little bit different, because hard money is more, hard money is more structured. Private money is not really as structured. Like, I had a guy, he did private money, didn't do no appraisals, no field appraisals. He did desktop appraisals, and his interest rates are a little bit lighter than hard money. I have a hard money lender that promised me that they were going to be able to get me to 92.5% of my costs, down payment, and that would have me bringing 7.5% down. And that's very important when you're doing multiple deals, because if you bring in 10 to 15% to a deal, and that limits your exposure. You're not going to be able to do multiple deals like you would if you had, if you bring in 7.5% down. I did a couple deals with them, and now we're at like 10%. But one thing I realized in the process of working with them is that they don't necessarily they're not pushing to give you 7.5%, because you got to think about it. That's limiting their exposure to what they could do for other people who are trying to get loans as well. And so what they do is they will give you that 7.5%, but you have to be at like 75% of LTV, and that limits their exposure on that property. So, that's a whole nother story in itself. So hard money, private money, and then raising capital from friends and family and your circle. I think that's very, very vital in this business, is being able to raise money through your circle, through your people. But the problem with that is that you have to be credible. You cannot do this off of 1 to 2 years of experience. Like, you have to have a proven track record of multiple years, multiple properties, to get people to be able to help you with doing deals. So I think that's very important, is that to understand that you cannot raise capital, you cannot syndicate without having a proven track record. Now, you might have some family who might do it off the strength the first or 2 times, but if you fail on that deal, if you fail the first 2 times, they might not come back the third time. And so for me, it was very, very, very important and very vital for me to raise capital off the strength of my credibility. And I see it as kind of having social currency, reputation capital versus financial capital. And the reputation capital, the social currency, is way more important than the actual, bank entities that, that you have your credit score with, because that's going to feed you. That's going to be more, and you're going to be able to do more deals based off of that, especially when you're not focusing on the conventional side of things, or the structure, the traditional structure. And what I find it important for me to do is combine raising capital with hard money. And that can be very, very lucrative. The thing about raising capital with hard money is that they both are loans. They're both for loans. You have a loan to pay back when you're raising capital, and you have a loan to pay back with your hard money. And so if everything works perfect, everybody eats. But what I found is, on some deals that I've had, is that if they take too long to sell, that mortgage is coming. That mortgage is coming every month, and you still have to pay back. And so those profits that you were thinking about eating or thinking about splitting is now, getting sucked away, so it can be very lucrative. It can be very profitable if the deal is perfect. If not, you start running into so many issues that, just not really going to help you. And it's going to just take away. And now you have to, move money around, shift things around. So, that's been very important for me to learn for myself, is you can raise capital, but you gotta have a cap. You have to have a cap with raising capital on particular deals. And at some point, you want to get to where you can leverage both perfectly, because you don't want to use all your cash, because that's going to limit your exposure on how many deals you can actually do, but at the same time, you don't want to have too many hard money loans, because you're going to be constantly getting payments every month. So it's all about finding a balance, in the two. So this is my first episode. I got some things to clean up, but work with me. We're definitely going to get there. If you got any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm going to have my email and all that good stuff attached in the link. And like I said, work with me. We're going to get there. Thank you.